Good morning and welcome to our time together to make good use of this time. We have time from now till 10:30. I would like to welcome you and to briefly introduce this morning's presenter, opening our three-part series on Islam. I am delighted and grateful that we are joined here this morning by Dr. Osman, who joins us and will give his introduction and presentation to the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran. He is joined by a friend, Tikin. Welcome to Community of Joy to the both of you. Our adult ed group that has been planning this series has for a long time wanted to do this. We hope that the next 3 weeks help us in our understanding, as well as in being rooted deeper in what brings us together from the three monotheistic faith traditions of Islam, of Judaism, and of Christianity. So without any further ado, please share with us, introduce yourself maybe a little bit briefly. Sure. You have a PowerPoint presentation which will walk us along also. Good morning and welcome again.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning.
Good morning, Mark.
Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Osman Anderoğlu. I am originally from Istanbul, Turkey. I went to school in Texas, in the Texans here, Dallas Station, Texas, Texas A&M University. You may hate me if you are a Browns fan. It's not my fault, definitely. I work at Los Alamos National Lab as a scientist. I would like to talk about some basics of the Islam. And at any point in the presentation, please stop and ask if you have questions. If you don't understand what I'm saying, I know I have a very, very thick accent. So please feel free. I am planning on taking about 20 to 30 minutes or so, and the rest is for your questions. But anytime during the presentation, please stop and ask me. Very brief outline of my talk. I will talk about basics of the Islam, some concepts that I think are not well understood. I'd like to clarify those. And I will talk about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Quran. They are really inseparable. The word Islam comes from the word silm, which means lots of meanings, but two I put up there, very common ones: peace and submission. Assalamu alaikum is a universal Muslim greeting. Whether you are in South Africa, Far East in Asia, you will say this, you will get a reply back. And it means peace be upon you. A very basic definition: Islam is a submission of one's will to the God, Allah, and anyone who does so is termed a Muslim. Couple of things about the word Allah. That's the Arabic word for the God. It's a little bit different in the sense that it is used only for the God of Adam, Moses, David, Solomon, Jesus, Muhammad, peace be upon all of them. It's not used for any other gods in Greek mythology or Hinduism. An Arabic speaker who follows Christianity or Judaism will also say Allah. So when you hear the name Allah, as Muslims, we believe that it's the God that sent Adam and all the prophets, messengers up to Prophet Muhammad. The name of Islam is not decided by man later. That's a name in the Quran given by Allah. The verse says, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. So it's a name chosen by Allah. And the verse that I cited in Arabic is here. So there are prerequisites to becoming a Muslim. Six pillars of faith in Islam. So you can't be a Muslim without believing in all of these. First of all, believing in Allah. Again, the creator of the universe, the sustainer of the universe. And the Arabic term is La ilaha illallah. It's not only saying this by your tongue, but also believe in the heart. And I think 2 weeks ago or so, I have read in the news that in a state, I forgot which one, the parents were complaining that the teacher in, I think it's world religions class, when someone says this, you don't automatically become a Muslim because you have to actually mean it, right? So some parents were complaining, don't worry about it. If you say it just to study for studying purposes, you won't become automatically a Muslim. He's angels. So Allah has a lot of angels. And the difference between an angel and human being, angels don't have free will. They would do whatever they are ordered to do. And we do have these 4 archangels, Gabriel. These are Arabic names, but I believe Azrael, we say in Arabic, is the angel of death. I forgot the English name. And the others. So Allah sent a lot of books. So Quran was the last of the revelation, but before Quran, there are other holy books, like Torah, like Psalms, Gospel to Jesus. These are the 4 major books, but there are other scriptures that were sent by other prophets or messengers. So a Muslim, someone who claims to be a Muslim, cannot say that, no, I don't believe in Gospel, or I don't believe in this or that. So you have to believe all of these books to become a Muslim. And his prophets, from Adam all the way up to Muhammad, peace be upon all of them, Allah sent prophets to warn people, to guide them to straight path, over and over and over again. And you won't hear a Muslim cursing any of the prophets, because it's a blasphemy. It will actually take you out of you have to renew your belief in Allah if you did that. You have to believe in the hereafter. So you will be responsible from all of our actions in the hereafter. There will be a judgment day. All of the things you did in this world will put together, and you will be judged based on your actions. The divine decree and destiny. So we believe in the free will, and that's actually why evil exists, because people choose, people will, and Allah creates. But these are 6 pillars of faith in Islam. So they're all together, they're part of a whole. So you can't say that I don't believe in this, but I believe the rest. You have to believe in all of those if you are claiming to be a Muslim. Any questions so far? Yes, ma'am.
Then I'm wondering about some of these offshoots. We may get to this later, but I mean, there's peace in there and so forth. I don't see how some of these offshoots that are doing some things that are really quite horrible can actually believe in all these things. Do you want to wait and talk about that later?
I can talk about that later, but I can also believe I'm on the same page as you are. What I can tell you, any kind of extremism cannot be justified in terms of my faith. And I'm glad that you brought this up. I will go through my slides, then I have some additional slides that I hope someone can ask and I can talk about it a little bit. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
One of the things that kind of stands out to me on the 6 pillars, they all seem to be like, okay, I can see how that's, but the one that is number 2, the angels, is that, do angels have a larger role and are described more fully? Because the angels in our holy books have really side roles and aren't central to, we wouldn't consider that to be one of our pillars of our faith, our role of angels.
So the angels, they have a certain level. Because they don't have a free will, they don't struggle like us. As a human, we know in the past great people. And if you struggle with your free will or with Satan, you can actually pass angels. But at the same time, you can be worse than animals. So angels, God, obviously, Allah doesn't need any of them. Allah has the power to do everything. But angels are servants. In a way, for instance, let me give you one example. So there is the angel of death. Someone passes away, a beloved one. It won't happen to you, I hope, but say someone. I don't want to use it as an example. And what we do, we actually start complaining, right? He was so young, she was so young, he didn't deserve this. And in a way, we don't say good things about the angel of death. It's like Allah actually, God, in a way, He's preventing you from directly saying bad things to Him. So He has angels like a curtain between you and Allah, if that makes sense. And actually, it is also said that when this duty was given to the angel of death, he says that, oh Allah, oh God, you give me this duty. It's not really complaining, but it teaches us something. People are going to complain. They are not going to like me because of this duty. Allah says, don't worry, I will create means, like accidents, like illnesses. Then people will not actually directly complain, but they will actually say that, oh, it happened because of this, because of that. But as Muslims, we believe that if anything happens, it's because God ordered it.
So, first of all, I can't tell you how honored I am to have both. I mean, it's just an absolute pleasure to have you both here, so thank you for that. The one question that I've always never understood about Islam is point number 5. When you talk about Judgment Day, how does a Muslim, how are they assured of the life after death, of being in paradise, as you call it? How are you assured of that if you're judged based upon your actions?
Okay, very good question. And let me actually tell something first of all. There isn't a single question that you can possibly offend me. So please do ask it. I guarantee I won't be offended, but I don't guarantee I may not have the answer. So we believe with the actions, with the good deeds you do, you won't be actually saved. If you trust that, oh, I have done so many good things, I'm good, I will reserve myself a good spot in the paradise, we will never say that. Even we believe prophets, I will talk about their characteristics. They don't sin. So it is guaranteed by God that they will not sin. They can make mistakes, but they will never commit sin. Prophet Muhammad says that no one will be saved because of his or her actions. It's only by grace of God. In that sense, it's actually very similar to Christianity. So nobody in Islam believes that I have done so many good things, I'm good to go. No one will say that. this is actually very dangerous thing to say.
Yes.
Excuse me. So then, these people who have, for instance, who flew into the towers because they were going to be in paradise, this is not necessarily part of your faith.
Yeah. There is a verse in the Quran says that killing one innocent person means killing entire humanity. If you kill one person out of injustice, it's not self-defense of any kind. What is it preventing you from any other person? And it's a chain, you can kill anybody else. No, that cannot be justified. Even in the war, there are rules you have to obey. You can't really touch non-combatants. You can't really kill children, elderly, people of God. You can't really touch them. You cannot destroy the buildings. You cannot destroy the natural resources. There are rules govern, even if you have to engage in a battle. And it's not like anybody's business to say that, oh, I don't like this, I'm going to war against this person or this nation. It's not like someone can come up with. There are rules. If you have to engage, the war is situational. It's not, you look for the solutions and you can't find any solutions. And if you have to go into war, yes, you are allowed under certain conditions like in self-defense. But there are rules. And the way I understand it, Allah knows that there will be wars. It happened in the past, it's happening today, it will happen in the future. The way I understand, He might as well establish some rules. If people have to do it, they do it at least with the minimum damage to themselves and to others. Okay. So once you believe in all of those, you become a Muslim. You become a Muslim by saying the declaration of faith. Saying that أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. This makes a person, when you say this with your tongue and believe with your heart, it makes you a Muslim. As a Muslim, we have, after this declaration of faith, the Arabic phrase I said means that I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is His servant and His messenger. And then comes Salah, the daily prayers. Muslims have 5 daily prayers. Starting from pre-dawn, there is noon prayer, mid-afternoon, there is one right after sunset, and one night prayer before you go to bed. But there are 5 daily prayers. And I will show you, during the prayers, you recite verses from the Quran, and also lots of prayers during this prayer. And you have to do certain ablution, wash your hands, in the airport especially, it's funny, because there's a part that you need to wash your feet. I never take my feet up to the sink, instead get someone, but if you see someone struggling, you know what he's trying to do, it's time to pray. There are things you can do to minimize it, but it happens. So you do that cleaning and then you face Mecca, you face Kaaba, and the prayer takes about 5 to 10 minutes. And it has bowing, it has prostration, standing. But think about this. So you wake up in the morning, this is how you start. And through the day, it reminds you that, because we get lost in our daily businesses, right? We have to reports that we have to finish, or things we have to sell, people need responses, so on and so forth. This actually, in a way, it tunes you through the day. So yes, there is this world, but there is the hereafter, and don't forget, it reminds you through the day, over and over and over again. There are volunteer prayers as well, so it's up to you. These are the obligatory ones. You can wake up in the middle of the night if you want to and pray God, and there are encouragements for a lot more prayers, but these are the ones that you have to do daily. Now, if you didn't do this, and a lot of Muslims don't do, unfortunately, but it won't make you non-Muslim, as long as you don't deny it. And the next thing is fasting. It's you abstain from food, drinks, and sexual activity. It starts from pre-dawn until sunset. And this is 1 month in a year. And that month is Ramadan. It's in lunar calendar. The fasting has a lot of aspects. And people usually ask me, can't you drink even water? And I said, yeah, you can't even drink water. That glass of water, if you give up in New Mexico, and it's going to be around June, July time frame, from pre-dawn until sunset, it teaches you a lot of things. That glass of water is the best thing you ever had at the end of the day. I guarantee it happens. You feel the water with almost all of your body. So that's a great thing. So it makes you appreciate things that we take granted. It makes you, in that time, during that time, be in the shoes of the people who suffer from hunger, for instance. And there are social aspects. When it is time for fast breaking, people usually get together with family, friends, neighbors. I went to school in Texas again. We had dinners, for instance, with other students. We had this fast-breaking dinners with a lot of churches, and that's actually one of the things I like about US very, very much. People are very, very welcoming, and I appreciate it very much. Purification of wealth. So this is zakah. Every Muslim has to give certain portion of his or her wealth. This is, let me explain this to you. So you have house payments, you have your car payments, you have to put aside money for your children, so on and so forth. After you have done all of those, there is a remaining part, and you have to pay minimum of 2.5% to people who are in need.
You guys are way better than we are.
That's minimum, so you can actually give more. And pilgrim, Hajj. So this takes about 10 days, and Muslims go to Kaaba. This is in Mecca. So you have to do it if you are physically, and I forgot to mention that. So the fasting is also if you are physically able to do it. You are too old, you are too sick, you are nursing a kid. So if there are physical conditions that prevent you from fasting, you can either make up later, or you can, if you are financially able, you can feed hungry people. So that's also considered if you are physically not able to do it. So Hajj is something, again, if you are physically able to do it, and financially as well, it's you visit Kaaba 10 days, and you have to do it once in your lifetime.
Sir, you have Sunni and
Shia.
Is this the same for all?
Yes. This is, as far as I know, same for all of us. Shia Muslims are about 7 to 10% of the Muslim population, mainly around Iran, some in Iraq, so on and so on, in that region. And this separation actually dates back to right after Prophet Muhammad. There was a dispute in who would succeed Prophet Muhammad, because he did not actually appoint someone to take over. And there were two groups of people claiming that his descendants should be leading the nation at that time, and the others thought that no, we would decide altogether.
And what are you?
I'm a Sunni Muslim.
And there's really no fundamental difference in their belief systems.
To start with, there wasn't. But later, I believe there are some major differences as well. But you could actually pray in the same mosque, and I don't think there are differences in those. But there are major differences than when it started.
Dr. Osman, have you had the opportunity to partake in a Hajj?
Not yet. At some point in my life, it's encouraged that you do it with your wife. I have 3 daughters, by the way. The little one is too little. We can't really take her with us, so maybe in a couple of years. Like people who has been there, so this is about 2 to 2.5 million people visiting that place. People who has been there, they call it full contact spirituality. So it's actually real crowded, and you only have 2 pieces of fabric to cover your body. Your class, your status really doesn't matter. You are together with Muslims from Africa, from Asia, from all different parts of the world, all together, circling around Kaaba and a couple of other duties. You can't shave, you can't kill even a flea during that visit, during that 10 days. And there is actually, I think it's a National Geographic documentary inside Mecca. I've watched it and it's really nice because there's one American Muslim, one Asian Muslim, and I believe one African Muslim, their experiences during that pilgrimage. It was really good. If you wonder, I suggest that documentary. And this is the Declaration of Faith. This is the Topkapı Palace in Istanbul, Turkey. So you will see this as a decoration in mosques, entrance of lots of historical places. I'm done with the basics, so I'm going to talk about Prophet Muhammad's life and Quran a little bit. But I need to talk about the pre-Islamic region. It will tell you actually the place that he was sent to. And it will put things into context better this way. Really, one of the darkest times of all. And as Muslims, we believe in that region where he was sent, it's really, I think the practices are not too much different in other parts of the world. So they have a lot of idols. In Mecca, they would worship idols. And this is really funny because they make idols out of cheese and worship it. When they get hungry, they eat it. And there is a verse from the Quran describing that. And very, very unfortunate practice. Having a daughter they would be ashamed of having a daughter. And it wasn't infanticide, wasn't uncommon practice. They would actually bury their daughters alive. And after Prophet Muhammad's, during his prophethood, one of his companions comes to him and tells him about his experience, and he starts crying and says, "Please don't tell me this anymore." It's really, I have 3 daughters again. Every time I think about them and how come people become so brutal, so savage. Yes, and this is actually one of the reasons, according to Islam, people receive messengers, people receive prophets because they went way out of their way. They need guidance, they really need help. Actually, I forgot to mention one thing. In Islam, there is the understanding of prophet, messenger. In Christianity, as I studied it a little bit, or my discussions with friends, so prophet in Christianity are the people who prophesize coming of Jesus. Let's go. In Islam, prophets are like messengers chosen by Allah and sent to earth to different nations. But it's not
in
really.
Christianity as well. Yes, I mean, even in the Old Testament, they weren't just about Jesus. They were about behavior and
Okay.
about the people. And,
Okay, that's okay. That's very good. The Prophet Muhammad was born in Mecca in year 570. He lost his father before he was born. 2 months before his birth, his father passed away, and his mother died when he was 6 years old. Then his grandfather took him and take care of him. But at the age of 8, his grandfather passed away as well. And then his uncle took him and helped him out. He got married with his first wife, Khadija, when he was 25, and at that time, Khadija was 40 years old. And he revealed the first message, the first revelation, when he was 40 years old. The revelations took from 40 years old until his death at the age of 63. So a total of 23 years, he received parts of Quran, and at the end of that, he would tell which verses go which place in the Quran.
Some of my Islamic friends say that they believe they're descendants of Isaac, not Ishmael.
So actually, we do know that Prophet Muhammad comes from Ishmael's side. Jesus comes from Isaac's side, and
Right, but I thought that too, but they said, I don't know what kind of Islamic people they were, but they said that they were descended from Isaac. And you celebrate that Abraham didn't kill Isaac.
Abraham didn't kill any of his sons.
Exactly, but he was, in Islam, was Abraham asked to kill
Ishmael.
Ishmael.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the names are different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in Islam, yes, so he was about to kill Ishmael, sacrifice him, when Allah sent him a lamb to slaughter instead.
Could you talk about the concept of the last messenger being sent, as it was on that last slide? Because I think that's a very powerful concept, but I also find it challenging as I think about it.
Mhm. So, we know that through the history, and there's actually a verse in the Quran saying that we send messengers to all the nations, all the tribes, and another verse says that we will not hold anyone responsible if he or she or if the group did not receive the message. Sometimes I think about a tribe in the middle of the Amazons. Did they really receive a message? If they did receive a message, they will be responsible from that. If they did not receive a message, they will be responsible from whatever they could have done with their knowledge. The Prophet Muhammad, he was, first of all, he was unlettered. He was an uneducated person. He couldn't write, he couldn't read. He did not leave Mecca except twice. One, he was a teenager, and one, he was about 25 for trading. He was a trader, basically, at that time. And Mecca is a city where people, again, worship idols. There isn't much exposure. I'm telling all of these because I'm trying to tell you that there is no way he would have actually, there is no record of him being friends to Christians or Jews so that he would receive some of their teachings and put it into Quran. It's impossible for him to write the Quran because he can't read, he can't write, and yet his message is so powerful. Instead of people challenging him, they would take up arms and try to kill him. But as a character, he was a very, very trustworthy person. So people are going, say, out of city for business. He's a a very trustworthy person. You can entrust your most valuable things, your wife, your money, your daughters. You are sure that he will actually not harm you. He will be safe. Your belongings will be safe with him. This is a character that everyone would say. Even the bitterest enemies, they never accused him of lying, for instance. When he showed miracles, they would call him sorcerer, but they would never say, no, you are lying, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And this is a person, he never lied for 40 years in his life, even the smallest thing. It's not very likely that he would lie about something that is so important. And when he received the verse asking him to invite his closest relatives to Islam, what he does, he gathers them. So this is a trustworthy person. They meet outside in Mecca, and he says, you know me, so if I tell you that there is an army waiting behind this hill, would you believe me? They said, you never lied to us. Everything you said so far was true. Yes, we would believe you if you told us that there is an army waiting to attack us. He says, well, now listen to me carefully. I received this message and I'm inviting all of you to accept this true religion of Allah. And starting from his uncle, did you call us to say this to us? So they would just turn away and leave. Don't listen to them. But again, I can't emphasize this anymore, that he was never accused of lying. So they told him, you are a sorcerer, they told him you are a magician, but they would never tell him that you lied to us, you deceived us. So that wasn't his character at all. Some characters that are common to all of the prophets and messengers. Truthfulness, they would never speak lie. They would always tell the truth. They're all trustworthy. And they would only communicate God's commands. They're intelligent people. They would bring reasons. There are verses in the Quran describing Abraham's time, the way he invites his people to his message, saying, look at I think he starts with the stars, saying that, look, those are beautiful, those should be our God, maybe those are our creators. Then they fade away. And he says, no, they can't be. And there is moon in the sky, it's brighter than most of the stars. And he says that, the moon should be, maybe the moon is our creator. And it becomes morning and it disappears. And he says, he's actually reasoning. It's not clear that if he really, most people say that he does that to convince people with the reasoning. Because there are people who actually worship stars, worship sun, worship moon, and in the morning he says, sun is the brightest of all, this should be our creator. But sun doesn't stay there either, so it goes around, and he says, no, none of these could be our creator. And one other thing he did was, so there were idols at that time as well, and he gets into the region and he breaks most of them and puts the axe on one of them next to one of the idols. And they know he doesn't like idols, he doesn't believe in idols, and they know as soon as they see it, probably Abraham did all of these. They go and they ask him, why did you do this to our idols? He says, well, look, the biggest of all is the axe. Why don't you ask him? Maybe he did it. And they say, he can't talk. Well, even if he can't tell you who did this, do you expect any help from these idols? So there is a way these prophet messengers reason people. So they bring really credible evidence that you are doing wrong. So it's infallibility. They would never sin. They make mistakes, but prophets, messengers would not sin. This is guaranteed by Allah. So they are supposed to set examples for people. And they would be
10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Freedom from all kinds of defects that will make people unapproachable, basically.
What does that mean?
For instance, so they are supposed to be able to talk to people. So they would be good speakers, for instance.
Oh, the prophets.
They wouldn't, or they won't be, they have to be able to listen to their questions, so they won't be deaf. That kind of defects. And Prophet Muhammad received the first message, the first five verses of chapter 96. This is chapter 96. He is in a mountain, in a cave, and Archangel Gabriel comes to him and says, read, and squeezes him. That's his description. And he doesn't know, he can't read. He doesn't answer, and the Archangel Gabriel squeezes him once again. In the third time, he says, what do I read? And then the first 5 verses were revealed at that time. This is the original Arabic text. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq khalaqal insana min 'alaq Iqra wa rabbukal akram alladhi 'allama bil qalam 'allama al insana ma lam ya'lam. And so this is the text, the Arabic text. Anywhere in the world, if I go to mosque, it will be recited in Arabic. This is the original text. Anything else, the translations, the commentaries, they are not considered Quran. So this is the language Allah revealed Quran. Anything else is a translation. I'm not an Arabic speaker, so I would go to Turkish or English translation to understand some of the verses, for instance. But I would never, in the prayers, I would always recite the original Arabic text. And the first book, during Prophet Muhammad, when the verses are revealed, he would memorize them, and his disciples, his companions, they would all memorize the verses. And they also started writing them on skin, on bones, different things they would write them, but it wasn't brought to become a book during Prophet Muhammad's lifetime. It was only after he passed away, during one of the leaders' time, 60 or 70 of the memorizers of the Quran were ambushed and they were killed, and they said, well, maybe it is best if we put it into book form, and they actually brought it, they made a book. And there is no difference between the first book and the book we have today. So, letter to letter, punctuations, they're all the same. It actually, also, it is inherited from word to word, mouth to mouth. I can explain it if we have time later. So this is the definition of the Quran up here. It's the first and the most strongest source. So you would look at Quran for any problem, for any questions you have first. Life of Prophet Muhammad. Quran is a book, Prophet Muhammad is the teacher. And every prophet is given miracles according to needs of his or her time. His time. For instance, during Jesus' time, his miracles were mostly related to healing. During Moses' time, there were lots of magicians, sorcerers, so he had staff. During Prophet Muhammad's time, the literacy was very advanced. So Quran, an illiterate person came with the Quran and nobody could challenge him. I will move a little bit faster. There are a total of 114 chapters in the Quran, and the verses deal with we could generalize them in 4 topics. Okay, I think this is the opening chapter of the Quran. And during our daily prayers, this is something that we recite. Every Muslim recite about 40 times if he's or she's praying. This is what we recite 40 times. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. I went through most of the things that I wanted to talk about, and did I answer your question? I wanted to give you Prophet Muhammad's, his relation to Quran, his time. But if you have further questions, you can ask, or I will just go back to. This is very common that people usually ask. Jihad. It's coming from the Arabic word jahada. It means actually to struggle, to strive. It's not used to kill. There is another word which is qatala in the Quran. I put together examples of the verses and some hadith sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, and it's not usually used to go into war. But going into war is also a form of jihad. But in Islam, there is no such thing as a holy war. There is no such thing that you have to convert everyone to Islam. There are verses that says that you have to accept everyone in his place. Your religion is to you, my religion is to mine. That's again one of the chapters in the Quran. So there is no such thing as try to convert everyone to Islam. It's not a teaching in Islam.
What about the verse that says, wherever your chariot wheel goes, that should be, I've heard that should be Islamic. Wherever you go, you should, the chariot wheel thing. It's what is used often by radical Christians to fight the thought of Islam. They say that somewhere in the Quran there's a verse about wherever your chariot goes, destroy everybody who's not Islam.
But let me actually tell you. So there are verses. So Quran is a book, like think about a medical book. You read a medical book and you don't go into performing a surgery on a body. So this is a book that you have to understand when the verse was revealed, what happened and the verse was revealed. And this is actually, it's a science in a way. People study this, spend their lives on it. So you have to look at the specific word when it was revealed.
Right.
So there is a verse, for instance, say that kill wherever you find them. And some radical Christians use this, hey look, Muslims want to kill us wherever they find us. There is no such thing. The verse came, there is a treaty to defend the city. And you can actually judge it with today's laws of the war. I will explain the situation and you can think of with today's standards. So there is an agreement to defend the city between Muslims and certain groups of Christians or Jews, I forgot. And during the war, they actually break that treaty. They left their side unguarded. And the verse actually comes for those specific people. And there are a lot of examples. For instance, what do you do when you go into war? This is 1500 years ago. What do you do when you capture people? You don't have long-term prisons. If you send them back, they're going to fight against you. Well, killing is one option. But Prophet Muhammad, for instance, he says, well, teach 10 Muslims how to read and write and you are free to go. You pay this much ransom and you are free to go. These are examples from his life. Yes, there are verses and people may take them out of the context and you can't. I can't just read it and say that I'm an expert in material science. Even I'm telling you that when I look at an image, I may be in disagreement with a material scientist.
Last question.
How does a traditional Muslim faith then explain this whole jihadist extremist thing that's going on? Who are these people and how do you explain them? Or can you?
I can't. They cannot be explained because, again, I said there is a verse in the Quran. There are rules of the war. Even in the war, you had to fight. You can't really kill innocent people. So these people are animals. They kill humanitarian aid people. They burn people. So you cannot even burn a dead body. You have to respect it. It's not. You cannot justify it with my faith, but I have to fight against them. I have to reach out to people and tell them that this is not Islamic. This is something I can do and I have to do because they are using my faith state saying that it's a way for them to recruit, by the way, people. So, and I will come to this. Sorry. I watched one documentary. It was a very short CNN news. I think this guy is supposed to be an ex-jihadist. He was telling that these people actually target newcomers, for instance, who don't know their religion very well. So I have to teach my children and other people that I can teach that this is not in our faith. So you can't really go and just kill people. I don't have an answer. I'm devastated more than you are because they are doing it in my name. They are saying that. I am sorry as a human, but I am also sorry as a Muslim that these guys are using Prophet Muhammad's seal in their flag. They don't have a right.
Yeah. So one question that I've always wanted to ask of Muslims in America today is that in studying the history of Christianity as well too, there are many atrocities that Christians, extremists that use in the name of Christianity that have hurt things. And I really wanted to know, especially since 9/11, have the two of you experienced any real forms of racism in this country because of your faith? Or are you feeling discrimination in this country more so than in years past?
So you can't, just looking at me, you can't tell I'm a Muslim. But my wife, you will tell, yes, she's a Muslim.
Sure.
I lived in the parts of the country that there are not very many of those extremist people. So I'm grateful for that, and I love this country. I love the freedom in this country. But I have heard things. Yes, if your name is Muhammad, you may be going through extra security checks at the airports. So is it a good thing? No, but sometimes I think things happen. So I personally did not feel any discrimination of any kind. I work at the Los Alamos National Lab as a scientist. It's very obvious that I'm from Turkey. I'm a Muslim. I have never had any issues, honestly. Taking out.
No, I mean, I came about a couple months before the September 11th. Personally, I didn't experience anything like that. My wife, a few times, kind of trying to say that she had a few incidents, but that's all. But I tried to explain to her that even in most of Muslim countries, the Muslims are more free in this country than even their own country. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate. I mean, at a certain time in Muslim countries, they will be accepted to the colleges if they have hearts. That's why. So, and she doesn't appreciate that one as well. So, she works in a childcare center. I try to explain to her that in any Muslim country, unfortunately, I mean, let's say, cannot work in a public school or in any such place in Muslim country. But you have your job and you have worked in a childcare center, nobody tells you anything. You just appreciate that.
Thank you. People, if we go on into the next hour, we have 2 more Sundays with 2 more guests. We continue the conversation next week. The questions you have today or you couldn't have answered, bring them back next week as we continue this exploration Thank you for your participation, but thank you especially.